NASA just released a new report on UAP and just held a press conference talking about UAP. Now, I've watched it through a couple of times. It's an hour long. There's a lot of talking, and a lot of it is just about data collection. But having listened to it through a couple of times, I picked out and chopped up the best stuff to try and give you and I a sense of what NASA wants us to think. Because let's face it, for most of us who are Googling this topic, we already believe that UAP are out there, and we believe that the government has something to say. So the question is, what is NASA trying to get us to think at this stage of the disclosure, at this stage in the 8-course meal? What is it that we're supposed to be thinking if we're being good and attentive citizens? I want you to listen to the following clips. It'll take 45 seconds, and I wonder if you can get a sense of how this conference represents a slight flicker in the dial of the UAP disclosure conversation.
We at NASA believe that studying UAP represents an exciting step forward in our journey to uncover the mysteries of the world around us.
And it's in our DNA to explore.
UAP are one of our planet's greatest mysteries.
To the unwavering quest for knowledge.
We're in a world of discovery.
We at NASA believe that understanding UAP is vital. It provides an opportunity for us to expand our understanding of the world around us.
We don't know what these UAP are.
At NASA, we are committed to charting the uncharted.
Mission of NASA is to find out the unknown, but we don't know what these UAP are, but we're going to try to find out. The NASA Independent Study Team did not find any evidence that UAP have an extraterrestrial origin, but we don't know what these UAP are.
I know. It's frustrating, isn't it? We know there is so much more information that's not coming out. I mean, all you need to do is look at the documentation that's come out of FOIA to know that this sense of mystery about UAP goes back 70, 80 years. But like I said, what is it they're trying to get us to think? And how is the conversation, the public-facing conversation, moving forwards? What I find fascinating with this whole chunk of clips is that not once is there a question of whether UAP exist. Not once is there a question of whether UAP represents some kind of mystery. In fact, I would put it to you that NASA wants us to see UAP as a genuine mystery. That phrase comes up again and again and again. This idea that we don't know what they are. It's mysterious. They represent one of the greatest mysteries that we face, and we're going to chart into this uncharted territory. It's sort of neurolinguistically programming us to think, hey, UAP are not only something to take seriously, they're a real sort of thing that we need to deal with, but they also represent a mystery. And that opens up the human consciousness. It opens up the public consciousness to the possibility that there won't be a conventional explanation for this. In fact, I would say that it's really blowing that door open to make ordinary people comfortable with the idea that we might be confronted with something genuinely novel, something genuinely new. Now, for you and I, that doesn't matter. We're already so deep down the rabbit hole that this idea that there might be a mystery is a bit of a joke to us. But in terms of analyzing disclosure and analyzing the process that's going on, I think that's really interesting. Now, the second interesting thing that I found by going through this content was the subtle implication that NASA might just want you and I to think that they are open and transparent. Where did I get that idea from? Well, let me just show you this series of clips.
Independent study team. This independent study team, it's independent. The NASA Independent Study Team, without any preconceived notion, do this transparently.
Independent study team.
An independent and external team commitment to transparency, and by valuing transparency and openness, trust and collaboration with the public.
The independent study team's report, the independent study team's
Deal openly, and we will be transparent.
Because we literally released everything, because that's what we do at NASA.
Openly, open data we could use.
Our stuff is going to be open, and we are open, and we're going to be open about this, which is transparent.
So I don't know if you got that, but I think whoever's responsible for the marketing and PR at NASA, they clearly are desperately trying to position themselves as an open and trustworthy source. Now, I wonder if they might be trying to position themselves in contrast to Arrow, who have faced a lot of criticism, and if they're trying to distance themselves from the government bureaucracy, which inevitably is going to be seen as culpable in creating UFO secrecy. Because somehow the Department of Defense needs to say UFO secrecy happened and lots of it was wrong, and yet we aren't that thing, and we're here to reveal that. So somehow you have to create this independent system. But, when someone says over and over again that we're going to be transparent and honest and open, it eventually just kind of seems suspicious, if you know what I mean. Now, onto something that I would describe as slightly more negative. One thing that came up a lot during this conference was this idea that there was this stigma that had been associated with UAPs and that they need to deal with this, but also that there had been harassment of the NASA team. Have a look at these clips.
NASA can reduce the stigma associated with pilots reporting anomaly.
We wanted to remove the stigma, and we also did not tolerate any of the abuse that some of our members of the panel were receiving, particularly on social media.
Where people behaved badly, and I would say harassed some of our panel members.
Simple trolling. The security and safety of our team extremely seriously. Some of the threats and the harassment have been beyond the pale, quite frankly, because science needs to be free. Science needs to undergo a real and rigorous and rational process, and you need the freedom of thought to be able to do that.
Isn't it interesting that these people who do in some sense represent the Department of Defense are here saying how important it is that for science to proceed, for the natural pursuit of knowledge to proceed, we need to be free in our thinking. We need to be free of stigma, and at the same time they're getting frustrated that people are harassing them. And it's very strange to me that they don't see the relationship between those two things. The reason that there is so much conspiratorial thinking in the Western world is because we have seen the authorities that govern us consistently hide things and consistently constrain our ability to have free thinking and to pursue ideas in a true marketplace of free thinking. The Enlightenment concept of liberalism has been quashed by our governments, which has led us to conspiratorial thinking, which has led people to harass NASA because they fundamentally don't trust them. So when they are criticizing the harassers, saying we need to be rid of this in order to act freely for the sake of science, they don't understand how that harassment came from, the hindrance of free thinking. And this is such a big problem, such a big issue, not just with this, but just in our society in general, is the failure to recognize that conspiratorial thinking is a result of the failure of leadership. So when you see people harassing NASA or you see people harassing a government agency, the solution is not to try and stamp it out, but to rather empathize and try and understand, why has this happened? Why is it that since Watergate and Vietnam and the Kennedy assassination, that the American people have become so much more polarized? There might be a really clear answer for this. Now, perhaps if NASA truly are about to become incredibly transparent and open, then we can put this all behind us and we can work and collaborate together. But sadly, a journalist, and there weren't that many good questions in this, but one journalist stood up from a Danish newspaper and he asked the question that I think we all wanted to be asked today, which is, what did you think of David Grush's testimony? Have a look at this.
You said at the beginning of the meeting that NASA will be transparent. Well, a month and a half ago, Mr. David Grush said under oath in Congress that the U.S. government is in possession of UAPs and extraterrestrial life. How can you be sure at NASA that other parts of the U.S. government is being transparent?
I don't speak for other parts of the government, but I can tell you NASA, which I speak for, is open and transparent with our data.
Do you believe what Mr. David Grush said, or is he lying?
You would want me to give a personal opinion?
Yes, please.
Of what he said. What he said, if I recall having seen this on the nightly news, was that he had a friend that knew where a warehouse was that had an UFO locked up in a warehouse. He also said he had another friend that said that he had parts of an alien. Whatever he said, where's the evidence? Is my response.
Excuse me. He also said that he did interview over 40 employees at the Pentagon.
Long time ago, there was a TV show, Jack Friday, and he used to say, just the facts, just the facts. Show me the evidence.
Why is it that all aging American administrators refer to really old TV shows that none of us have any reference to? I mean, it's a total Joe Biden moment here. This is a real shame. It really, really is. Firstly, I just want to praise this journalist for firstly bringing up that question so clearly, and then for pinning Bill Nelson down and saying, what do you think about it? And then bringing up the 40 witnesses. Bill Nelson's inability to correctly represent the quality of what David Grush has done. Now, granted, we haven't seen any evidence, but we know that the Inspector General took his claims seriously and describe them as credible and urgent. We know that he's testified under oath, risking jail time, making a whole series of very explicit and frankly astonishing statements. None of this is to say that that means it is true. But when you come up on stage and you say that we are going to look into UAP, and then you misrepresent a simultaneous discussion that is going on the subject of what this all might mean, you show yourself to not really care. Now you might say, oh, but NASA and Bill Nelson, they're focusing on the science of the situation, whereas David Grush is talking about anecdotal evidence. To that I would respond, who cares? All of it are different avenues that we should be pursuing together in answer to this profound mystery, as they correctly articulated, this profound mystery that we're all facing. So that misrepresentation, it sucks. And when they stand up on stage and they try and message to us about being transparent and open and frank with the people, and then they talk about being harassed, about how that's unacceptable, and then the guy who runs NASA stands up and so blatantly mischaracterizes what has happened with David Grush, it's disappointing. And what that's going to lead to, I'm afraid, and I'm not approving of this, but what it's going to lead to is more harassment, because you're showing yourself to lack real credibility, to lack a real interest in where this conversation is going. So that's my summary of what's just happened. I hope you found that interesting and elucidating. My name's Jason Samosa. This has been Jason Samosa's Ufology Moment. And until next time, cheers.